I'll set the scene. 9th of May 1998, Celtic Park. Attendance 50,500. Celtic take on St Johnstone. That was the day that Celtic stopped 10 in a row. The day I was at Parkhead to witness that great day. 2 minutes in, the great Swede Henrik Larsson makes it 1-0. I'll never ever forget it. He bent it right round the goalkeeper. I remember being just in eye line with it. Absolutely incredible moment. I'll never forget a day like that. I used to go to Parkhead every week with my dad and my uncles and stuff, and that was one of those moments that will live in history in my mind, because I don't ever remember seeing that many people inside one stadium. It was just so incredible. I'll never ever ever forget it until the day I die. It was just a surreal day. It was very, very sunny. I could feel the pressure. I was only like 12 years old, and I did know what was happening and stuff, but I wasn't quite aware just how big a day that was. It was just so surreal, like I say, because I used to go to the games every week, and I'd never seen, it's so packed. There was obviously people that were jumping through the barriers and stuff to get in, because there was people sitting on stairs and all this kind of stuff. Every single seat was full. It was just an amazing, special day. Second half in the 72nd minute, Harald Brattbakk, who a lot of people didn't really appreciate at Celtic and stuff, because he did miss a lot of opportunities. But he did score a good few goals for Celtic, and none more crucial than this, to stop Rangers from doing 10 in a row. And after the game, which is quite ironic this year, because Celtic fans ran on the park and there was a massive deal made about that. And quite rightly so, it shouldn't have happened. But back in 1998, we did allow St Johnstone players and St Johnstone fans to leave the stadium before we all ran on the park. And I remember going up to the exact position where Harald Brattbakk was standing when he slotted at home, and reenacting that as a 12-year-old boy, something I'd just witnessed about 30 minutes beforehand. It was just a moment in your life and a moment in history that will never ever be forgotten, like I say. And that is without doubt my favourite ever Celtic memory, my favourite ever Celtic game, because of everything that surrounded it. I used to go in the years of Tommy Burns and that, where Celtic had an amazing, amazing team. We had Pierre Van Hooijdonk, Andy Tom, George Cadetti, Paolo Di Canio, guys that, if they played in this day and age, would be absolute first team starters. But it was just at that time, unfortunately, Rangers were excellent. Rangers had Paul Gascoigne and Brian Laudrup, all these amazing footballers. Whereas Celtic just drew too many matches, unfortunately. We played a load of matches that we didn't quite get it over the line, and that cost us. We drew far too many. But Tommy Burns had an amazing team. And then, in 1997, we bought this man called Henrik Larsson, who came from Sweden. He came from actually a team in Holland called Feyenoord. Everybody was kind of familiar with who he was because of his 1994 performance with Sweden, but no one knew just how good he was. He was the difference maker. I totally believe in my heart, if there's no Henrik Larsson that season, Rangers would have won 10 in a row. But Celtic did spend wisely as well outside of that. They bought in guys like Paul Lambert, who were fantastic, alongside the guys like Simon Donnelly and all these other people. Your Tom Boyds and all this kind of stuff. Amazing, incredible footballers who, thankfully, did stop Rangers from doing that almighty 10 in a row. And unfortunately, Celtic in 2020 missed out on that opportunity as well, due to COVID, in my opinion. If it wasn't for COVID, I think that Celtic would have been in with a right good chance. I'm not saying we would have definitely won, but we would definitely have put up a better fight that was just a year now that everyone has to forget. So many mistakes made that season, unfortunately. But going back to 1998, the late great Wim Jansen made it happen for Celtic. He came in, he was only there for 1 year, and he brought us the title that we all needed. Unfortunately, Wim passed away a good few years ago now, but we had the pleasure of talking to Murdo McLeod on Mother podcast last year, and what a great, great man. He was the assistant manager to Wim in that season, and just a lovely, lovely, amazing person who was also an incredible footballer for Celtic, was Murdo. And he also helped bring back the glory days by stopping 10 in a row. And then, just after that, a couple other mistakes from Celtic after that, but Celtic ended up employing current manager Martin O'Neill in the year 2000. And as they say, the rest is history. What a fantastic manager. In 2026, at 74 years old, he's still performing. He's still getting the best out of players. He's still getting everything that Celtic need, which is league titles and cups, winning the double. And I totally believe in my heart of hearts, if Martin O'Neill had still been in charge throughout the Wilfred Nancy period, unfortunately, this season, where it all went wrong for the Frenchman, Celtic would have won a treble. Because he seems to get the best out of players who aren't performing. He seems to get the best out of players who are quite limited in ability, to be honest. And that's what is exciting for next season, because we have the great man at the helm. I just hope that he's backed. A lot of Celtic fans are restless because of what's happening over the last few years regarding transfer fees, regarding lack of ambition, regarding failure to communicate with the Celtic supporters. But Brian Wilson has come out and said that they will be more vocal with the supporters. They will have more dialogue. He said that there are people that are hired for this specific job. So I'm really hoping that next season that Celtic fans and everybody involved in the club can have a bit of communication, much more communication, because for far too long now Celtic go silent on big topics and they can't keep getting away with it. Last season was horrendous at times. You know, there's people saying to me, you've got to be happy, you won a double. I'm more than happy. I'm delighted at how last season ended. However, it was a real roller coaster to get there. And next season we have to perform better. We have to get people in the door, not just on the park but off the park, who are Celtic ready and who are Celtic quality. Because Rangers are going to create a title challenge here. They've brought in Derek McInnes, who knows the Scottish game. He knows the Scottish players. He's took his captain with him. And he'll probably go out and spend more money because Rangers seem to back their managers, whereas Celtic seem to fall asleep at the wheel. So anyway, this was about my favourite ever game in 1998. I went off on a tangent, I apologise, but 1998, 9th of May, what an amazing day. Tell me your favourite games in the comments, and please remember to subscribe to Jamie Talks Celtic.